Hello everybody. So I just wanted to do another video here on Train Sim World 2 and just review a couple changes that you can easily make to improve some of the scenery quality. And I'm asking if anybody else knows any others to please post them below in the comment section here. But we'll take a look here. Let's get, whoops, I guess we gotta juice this thing up first. So I decided to pull up East Coast Way in a 377 here. I really like this route. Just the scenery. Oh, sucks to be them. So this is a bug, obviously. I don't know if this is in the. I think it is actually. It's in the newer roadmap, passenger behavior and such. So. But we'll jump in here and we'll take a look. So what I'm looking at here is, and I'll run a couple different routes real quick. Not going to spend too much time on each individual one, just to show some of the differences that you can make by editing the engine.ini file for Train Sim World. So there's an article that came out, and I'll copy the article link into the description below. That came out on one of the Steam discussion forums, I believe 2 years ago, on how to change some of the functions for Train Sim World through this file. And the nice thing is it's really easy to edit because you're only adding instructions into the file. So if you mess something up, you can just delete everything that you added below. You're not modifying existing text in the file. And I'll go over a couple of the changes I have in this. So this is running in 4K. So you'll see frame rate wise, slight hit. Most of it, so I have 100%, I forget what the actual option is here. It's, let's go take a look here. So that's our basic screen percentage. If you increase this, you'll get sharper lines on the screen. I keep it at 100%. Because it'll hit your frame rate significantly, and if you're running it in 4K, you're not going to notice that much of a difference, as much as you would if you were running in 1080 or 1440. And everything else is pulled up here. My monitor will only do 60 frames per second at 4K, so I'm keeping it at 60, but no harm. If you've played East Coast Way before, you'll notice that there's a lot less glare, so I decided to pull this up just because the light, we're going to be heading west. It's 10:55 a.m.-ish. Well, it was when we started here, 10:58. And that will show more on this dashboard here than any other time. So sun from the rear, if you play this with the default INI file settings, you will see that you'll have a ton of glare here. So we'll get moving just to show a couple more of the differences here. The big one will be your loadout in front of you. So a couple of them are like view distance. So r.view distance scale equals, and then you put your number in. So it's the default sets to 1. I have this set to 5. So what that means is that this will render scenery 5 times the distance that it did by default. And you'll see once we get past this point how that impacts the experience here. More so because if you're running high speed routes, and I haven't tried this on the new TGV route, be interested to see what kind of changes, where grass, weeds, foliage, how they just kind of grow out of the ground quickly as you drive by them, that goes away. Or I should say, it lessens the effect of it, because it's still there. If you look way off in the distance, you'll see things popping up, where if you leave it on default, you'll see it pop up as you drive by. So every now and then you'll see something spring up out of the ground, even with these settings in place. So let's get up to speed here. We'll get it up to 70. You'll also notice that on the track, it's a lot cleaner. The rail shine that's there doesn't have a hard line to it, or it's not as noticeable as it is with the default INI settings. And there's a number of other settings that you can change in here, and I'll like I said, you can read that in the link. But there are some additional functions that are available that you do not have in this text in the discussion forums that you can modify slightly, and I'm sure there's a number of others that I'm unaware of. But as you can see, frame-wise, we're not really taking a hit here. Now, once we get out of this platform here, and we'll just stop real quick and do what we're supposed to do. Whoops, I'm kicking a little hard there on the breaking it, or good enough. But here, this is best, and I'll step out. Step out. Now, stepping back into the passenger compartment, you'll notice, see how bright this is. So this is baked into the model. So the engine settings will not rectify that. But that's just with the 377. I believe a couple German units that's in. But if you're in, say, like the 363, or any of the, pretty much any of the newer ones, the 377 is a little odd with that. But more so, if you look at this and you see how far it renders out the scenery, this is 5 times the distance. Now, I haven't tried any others just to see what it would do, because you'll notice, especially in the shadowing on the trees, on the leaves, you'll see that kind of set out a lower level of detail. There is a level of detail setting that goes in line with just the view distance, so you can increase that as well. Closer to 0 the better, and I think I have mine set to 0.5. It defaults to 0.75, so maybe I'll drop that down to 0.25 and see what happens with that. But I haven't really been hit too hard by this yet. So let's jump back in and we'll give it a go to our next stop. One function I would really like to find is the setting for. Oh, there we go. Is the setting for maybe the fences? I don't know if there's something for that. You'll notice in a lot of tightly meshed fences, chain link fences, and such, from a certain distance, you'll be able to see through the mesh properly, and then a portion of the fence will appear opaque. The further away it is, the more opaque it appears, and then you'll have a hard cut switch back over to transparency. So if you're familiar with these settings changes and you know if there's a coding for that, please, or an instruction I should say, post it below. So I'm digging into these to see if there's any new stuff to find, but you'll see just the distance that you're getting scenery here as compared to default. And sorry, I don't have a default video for this. Nah, and this is just graphical. I don't know if there's an audio modifier for this. Not too bad right now, but sometimes you'll load up the game and you'll get a different kind of horn squeal or some sort of echo, or it's just some modulation to that audio file that doesn't always occur. I'm not too sure what causes that, or if there's any way to modify it outside of just, you know, restarting the game. So this one's not too awful in terms of the foliage. You can see the shadowing though. So once you come up close on it, so that could be the static mesh LODD distance scale equals setting that'll be in the file that you might see if you're interested in trying this. But there's a lot more clarity because of the bloom reduction and some of the fog reduction. You don't want to completely kill the fog because there's times you want fog to appear. Because if you get rid of it, snow kind of looks silly. So there's that fence pop. I don't know if you just noticed that. But yeah, kicking the bloom off is a pretty good deal. So, and those who are a fan of this route, probably looking forward to the 313. Really hoping that they can figure out a way to do extensions. I'd love to see some more work done on this route. So just to get out and look around here again, we can see the level of detail, or I should say the draw distance, level of detail. Now those models there probably don't render fully like they do on this side of the track, because you're never, on that side, you're not close enough to it. But the bloom reduction is the big one on this, I think. Everything's kind of clean. We'll take a look real quick here at, so let's back out. Let's go look at Long Island Railroad. That's a really good one because we're talking about, especially, whoops, let's kick back here. Long Island Railroad. And let's do M7 because the M7 is just a giant mirror. And you will sometimes see, yeah, we'll just take what we get here. And let's do the same thing. We'll start, let's do 1135, 935. Let's do something a little higher in the sky. And we'll keep it clear. Something I want to show as a detriment to making these changes is how the sun appears. Lesser of two evils is switching this over because the sun really just looks like a whitish ball in the sky. Where before the bloom would kind of hide its edging. So taking a look from the outside, you can see it's a little darker. So some of these settings you might want to make based on the route you intend to run. I don't mind this too awful much, but it reduces that super, super brightness. But let's get in this, we'll get up to speed, because there is a huge difference with this one in terms of the track, especially with our third rail here. Charge it up. You can see some odd twinkle there on the track ahead of us. I don't know if there's a modifier for that or if it's as a result of any of the changes I made. But like I said, this is nice because you can kind of just play with it easily and make changes. At least in my experience, Train Sim World and Train Sim World 2 load up significantly faster, so I don't feel like I'm wasting too much time. But let's get this thing down the road a little bit. So we'll just view the passing of the train here. Oops. But the contrast to the background there, you can see on the buildings and the traffic is much better. And this isn't too awfully bad. Another thing everybody's probably looking for is the passenger, or the PIS, Passenger Information System, coming to East Coastway and Long Island Railroad. So again, much cleaner, but there's our ball of light. Our sunshine is just the white ball in the sky. Small price to pay, in my opinion. I'm never looking up at the sun anyway. It could be awkward, though, if running in completely clear conditions like this and you're heading into the sun, just staring at the white ball. So you can see the fence issues here. This is a really good route to run if you want to see that meshing issue with the fence line between opacity levels. But you see kind of that ziggy on the track right there where it's kind of causing a haze. And then again on the outside here with the third rail and the mountings, that I don't know if there's any changes to that, but the shadow effect that drops on the front, just in front of the vehicle, you can see that right there. It's not as prominent with these settings the way they are. And there are a number of settings you can change, like I said, and there are some that you can just copy and paste right into your INI file. Based on your computer setup. So this is a route that has a very long straightaway here with very little variation in the world detail. So not, I would say, not dissimilar to GWE, but there are some. I think there's a little bit more in terms of variation in models and scenery in that route. So in this one here, just slow down a little bit to check it out. Now, from outside, you see less of it. So another thing I really wish they would just add to Train Sim World is a simulator pause button. So you can pause, get some photos, or set up for a flyby or something along those lines. But because the draw distance is so great in a straight line in this route, you get to experience more of this kind of asset popping in and the rendering change. So again, that could be a setting I could change. Maybe I can go in and change this to a 7.5, and not experience as much of a change. You really have to test it out and find that happy ground for your system and what you're looking for, because obviously if you make a change to how this is built to run, it may negatively impact the quality overall. So it's all about finding that happy medium. I'm kind of happy with how I have it set now. I'll probably tweak it a little bit more. What would be really nice is if this was built in as options for users into the settings themselves, so you wouldn't have to go through the INI. But again, that's up to Dovetail and the engine in terms of how it operates. And I think we're moving in the right direction here. So I'm going to back out of this one, and we'll go try one more. Another good one, another favorite of mine. So let's do a run in, no, let's take it from the south here. And let's do something a little later in the day. We'll take this 519. Just because we'll be able to see, maybe off in the horizon, we'll be able to see that white ball of light and see how that impacts the world. But this Caltrain route was another one that was really bad with bloom and overexposure. So bringing those down a bit here, you'll be able to see what some of these changes do. So again, this is just really information. If you haven't seen it before, or how to make the modifications, trust me, it's super easy. But just to jump outside here, we'll take a look around. So a different time of day where we're going to have a little bit more in terms of shadow effect. Not as bright on these units. These are another mirrored unit here. So sometimes with that bloom turned up high by default, those things look absolutely disgusting. So this gets you looking at more of the grime and such on these things. Oh, I forget what all these do. I'm sure I forgot something. I haven't driven this thing in forever. So we'll see if it cooperates with me here the first time. So no biggie if not, I think. What am I doing wrong here? No. Maybe it's not back here. I know I missed something. I gotta turn those on. I might back out of this. Missing something here. Missing something. And it's probably staring at me right now. The doors, right? No? Okay. Well, jump out of this one. Just got to put a little bit more time into this. Say that was one of my favorite routes to run, and it absolutely was. Here's a newer one. Another good route to take a look at. And again, we'll do this with some highlight. And we'll run from south to north here. The sun will be high into our south side. And this is one of the newer routes, different developer. We have to let the... Whoa, slow on the texture build there. Here we go. Just to take a look. So the shadowing on the trees, I think, is a little bit more prominent. Gives it a little bit more depth and detail. You gotta be a friendly driver. Yeah, and I don't really mind too much here if we're not. So this one recently, so you can see one of the downfalls here. You'll notice the ballast in front of us kind of builds in maybe 20 feet in front of us. It doesn't happen from the outside though, so you notice that. So I'm not sure what type of setting that is. I'll have to go back and look and see if that's in the default. But again, this is I want to say this is Rivet Games, right? Rivet, and not DTG. So we're starting to see some routes from third party, and I'm not too sure if there's going to be some differences between how they're rendered, how they code them, or if these settings are universal or not. So we might see some of those By default, the root may have these settings. They might be toned down somewhat. I don't know if that's within the engine or within an individual root setting. And then we might see something come along, and you have these settings for everything else looking good, and then all of a sudden the new root looks like trash. So we'll just have to keep our eyes on that. Something I would love to see is the new stock. And I should repaint this thing, but the I believe it's the 484 stock, which is the new, carries the blue livery instead of the red island line livery. It's got a blue island line livery. I think they look pretty cool. It'd be cool to see those on here in use, so we can get a add-on. We're just going to blow through here so you can see that shadow line right there, a little bit further ahead of us. You'll notice the ballast is not as noticeable when you're running at speed, but if we slow this thing down, you will see that effect again. And the slower you go, the more obvious it is that we have that line on the track there. But again, if you look from outside, you don't see it. Oh no, I take that back. You do see it from the number 8 camera. But you don't see it from the number 2. And you do see it from number 3. So that's really odd that the cameras have different rendering. But we are going to stop that here for now. I'll do some other routes and some looks at some other content that I'm seeing a lot for, like the 363, which in my opinion is one of the best locomotives, DLCs for Train Sim World 2 right now. But a lot of the videos you see are in German because it is a German product, but it's a really cool unit. Sounds amazing, highly detailed, and it's nice to see some diesel freight in this. So the 204, I think that I see a mistake. I forget which one there is coming. I did see like a 218 or a 232 DB 218, 232. And then, of course, we have the 313 talked about earlier for East Coast Way. Southeastern Express, that's going to be really cool to see because we already have an additional DLC for that showing in the list, and we also have Clinchfield. We have another North American freight route coming with that. Just a lot of really cool stuff coming. So again, I'm really starting to see some promise in this, and I really hope they dig into what the community wants, and even maybe they were cautious, waiting to see if there was a buy-in from the community with Train Sim World 2, and really pushing into the console market now that we have the next gen consoles out. Will that change how things are written in terms of length? And many people saw that there is a survey that was out here this week from Dovetail in regards to what the consumer really wants out of the product. What do they prioritize? So lots of really good questions in there, and we'll see what the market really wants. And hopefully DTG will be able to deliver in 2021, and we'll have a really cool experience with this very soon. So it was a slow, stumbled, fumbled start, I think, really with the product, but we'll see where we're going here. I'm cautiously optimistic on where we're going. So hope you enjoyed this video. Again, I'll post the link to the forum discussion so you can get some of this information for yourself. Google it, check it out. There's some settings just in the engine itself that you can modify in this INI, and it's real simple. Always make a backup copy of the file, but the INI file itself, you're not modifying anything existing, you're adding to it. So it's really easy just to back that out and save the file again. But hope you enjoy. Please do subscribe, click a like, and do let me know below if you have any comments, suggestions, or any other sort of functions that you found work better for you or your system, or certain routes, or whatever it may be, to alleviate maybe some of these weird shadows and loadings that we see throughout the route, to kind of help everybody else, including myself, just get a little bit more, squeeze a little bit more juice out of this grape. All right, so thank you again, everybody. Hope you enjoyed. We'll run another one here for you real soon.